They decided that with little more than 8 days to go, this is go time. This is the time where you got to really go. But Biden has put the lid on his in his campaign. He's going back to the basement, and he's going to be, I guess, working on, I don't know, remembering what he's running for or who he's running for. He's put a lid on his campaign just a little early.
He's preparing for the next debate, Glenn. That's all.
There is no other debate. But here he is yesterday on the campaign trail.
This is the most consequential, not because I'm running, but because who I'm running against. This is the most consequential election in a long, long, long time.
Right.
And the character of the country, in my view, is literally on the ballot. What kind of country we're going to be. 4 more years of George, is going to find ourselves in a position where if Trump gets elected, we're going to be in a different world.
Yeah, we are. We are much different. It will be one that where the president remembers who he's running against, or who's president now. It'll be nice.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be a problem with Donald Trump. He seems to remember that he ran against Biden. He ran against Clinton last time.
Yeah,
Those
he
are
does.
both things he
and
remembers.
It's something that, it'll be a very different world where the aides don't have to wake the president and say, Mr. Biden, what? I just want to remind you, you're president. That's why you have to get up right now. I'm who? That's a different world than Donald Trump.
This is basically a one-person election.
It's what?
It's a one-person election. There is one person running for president, and that's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And the question is whether you vote for Donald Trump or against Donald Trump. It's got nothing to do with Joe Biden.
No, it doesn't.
People
it's
are
really
not even
frightening.
Considering it. And I would say, again, I think that's even applicable on the right. Like, I think even on the conservative side, generally speaking, there's a lot of passion for Donald Trump. There's not a ton of passion against Joe Biden. There's a lot of passion against the left generally. There's a lot of passion against Ilhan Omar and AOC and Nancy Pelosi. But like the passion on Biden, it's just like people just look at him as this figurehead sort of placeholder for the left.
He is the unnamed candidate.
Yeah, he really is. They've actually pulled this. I mean,
yeah.
we're a week away. Yeah. They've pulled this off.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't won yet.
I'm not saying that he's won the election. I'm saying
but
this tactic has been pulled off.
Yeah.
They have actually kept Joe Biden basically out of the election.
But look at what it has taken. Look how much water has been carried. Look at how many people they owe now. They owe all of these organizations. They owe all of the labor parties. They owe the media. They owe everybody. The thing that we like about Donald Trump is he doesn't care about anybody. You know what I mean? He cares about his relationship with you because you're the only one that supports him. The American people are the only ones. And I've never seen this with a president before. Ronald Reagan, I believe, had that. George Bush, he didn't have that. He cared about the American people, I'm sure, but he also cared about the state, the apparatus of the state. Donald Trump doesn't care about any of that. What he cares about is the people. Joe Biden is beholden to everybody, and especially the left. I mean, did you hear the news that the next labor secretary maybe Bernie Sanders?
No.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. Oh next labor secretary, Bernie Sanders. Can you even imagine that? We're going to go this Wednesday. We have the first 100-day plan from the Biden administration. If they get in, what they're going to do for the first 100 days. It is worse than you think. We're going to do that on Wednesday night show. You need to watch it with a friend, especially a friend who is undecided, and just watch it because it's not, it's not an investigative report. It's not in question. It's what they say they're going to do in the first 100 days. And it's terrifying. America does not survive it. So, I don't know if people really understand what's at stake. Joe Biden is now going back home, and he's going to be, in the basement. Trump, meanwhile, has reached 52% approval rating in the final stretch. Now, this is according to Rasmussen, but that is up 3 points. If that number is real, I don't know if I believe any poll.
Yeah, it's never smart to believe any individual poll, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think if you look at the general sense of things, you look at the averages over time. You know, like people were all excited about this IBD poll that came out last week that showed for a couple days Trump within 3 points, I think, nationally.
Yeah.
And now that's bounced back to 7. So do we stop believing it?
Right.
Right. Like it's hard. You really have to look, I think, generally speaking, as to where these things go. One of the interesting things, if you remember back to 2016, if you look at like the 538, they did their little model, and everyone beat up on the pollsters for getting this wrong, of course. But one thing, if you look back at 2016, around this time, I mean a little earlier, but around this time, he had Trump had like a 12% chance of winning. And the same thing he has now on their average, it's about 12%. Now, to me, that seems low, frankly. But what you saw in the last 2 weeks of the campaign was that number change from 12% to about 30%.
Right.
You saw a legitimate increase in these polling averages.
Because you started to see Hillary Clinton fall apart.
And you saw movement. You saw
Yes.
that. Of course, you had the Comey situation. You had all that.
But is there movement? Let me give you this. Survey from the Pew Research Center, released 2 weeks before Election Day, found 84% of voters who lean Trump, 66% of voters who lean Biden prioritize the economy before casting their ballots, totaling 74% of all voters. Greater proportion of blacks and Hispanic voters, 81% and 80%, see the economy as very important compared to 73% of white voters. Among men and women, 73%, 74% respectively, agree the economy was very important. Although 82% of the voters who lean Biden see coronavirus as very important before casting their vote, only 24% who lean Trump consider the subject equally important. The number has stayed consistent among Biden-leaning voters, but declined from 39% to 24% among Trump-leaning voters since August. Healthcare joins the economy on the topics voters label most important. Wide gap between Trump supporters and Biden supporters on the issue. 82% of voters leaning Democrat see this issue very important. 44% who favor the president agreed. They appear to be in sync on weighing the importance of the Supreme Court. 66% of Biden-leading voters and 64% of Trump-leading voters labeled the topic as very important. Trump has nominated Amy Coney Barrett, and that happens today. They're actually moving that forward. Biden supporters haven't moved from their position in August, but 69% of Trump supporters say the issue is very, very important to them. And you told me a number last week that shows that the majority of Americans, what was it, 60%? I don't remember, that said that they now agree.
Yeah, Cedar. You're talking about Amy Coney Barrett?
Yes.
Yeah, seat Amy Coney Barrett. She deserves the seat. I mean, like, she came off as very qualified, and the American people reacted to that. They said, they didn't. I don't think they essentially liked the tactic. They were convinced a little bit by the media's spin that this was crazy and that the Republicans said the opposite a few years ago. But seeing her and being impressed by her did a lot, and she is now. I mean, that's why this is cruising so easily. The American people have changed on it. They've said she does deserve to be seated at the Supreme Court. And this is what's so unpredictable about everything. If you would have told me 6 months ago that a few weeks before the campaign, Ruth Bader Ginsburg would pass away, the seat would come up, the Republicans would be forcing through on partisan lines completely, a new justice that's going to be seemingly very good and a very conservative justice, you would have thought that was the only thing people were talking about.
Nobody's talking about it.
And here we are. It's like it's not barely even happening.
Yeah.
It's incredible how this stuff happens.
I'm telling you, 2020 has been so weird. Vampire space bunnies could invade, and we would all surrender, and everyone would go, no, that makes sense.
I'm at the point where I think it's unlikely they won't arrive.
I do too.
At any moment, I expect it to happen.
I was reading the report today. We're not going to talk about this, unfortunately. We don't have a lot of time. They just opened up the headquarters now for the Space Force, and they were talking about how they believe that space is going to be the next frontier for weapons, and not towards the United States, but we are going to be having wars with someone at great distances, and it's going to happen very, very fast. And I'm reading this, and I'm thinking to myself, nobody's talking about this, and why are all of a sudden why are we focused? I mean, I would not be surprised if we hear in the next, year We could hear it in the next week, and I wouldn't be surprised. Next 5 years that there are people coming, there's some sort of alien race that is coming our way, wouldn't be surprised. Just wouldn't be surprised.